Did you turn it on?
I don't know, is it on?
Yes.
It is, okay. So our speaker for this evening is, you're a reverend, aren't you?
Yes.
I think you must be.
Yep.
Reverend Connie Griffith. It says so right here on the page. Connie is a full-time resident of Lilydale and has been a registered medium for the last 27 years. Her education includes a degree in industrial engineering and a master's degree in business administration. She worked for 20 years as a healthcare executive and for 11 years as a project manager doing construction projects excuse me, for an international real estate company. Connie is a graduate of the School of Healing and Prophecy at Fellowships of the Spirit. She is a teacher, a medium, and a healer, and is ordained as a spiritualist minister. She is also a practitioner and teacher of the Mari Mandala Assessment Research Instrument and certified by the NBCC, which is the National Board of Certified Counselors, to offer CEU credits. She enjoys playing with her grandchildren, painting, canvases and walls, sewing, gardening, and learning new and interesting stuff. So take it away, Connie.
Thank you. It is on? All right. Our topic tonight is transformational grace, transformative grace. I apologize for that. First of all, you are worthy. The power of grace is active in your life, showing you the way. Indeed, at times we are stunned with the transformative evidence of that power. And the good news is, this is a gift of unmerited favor through the action of the Holy Spirit. We've all heard some of the powerful examples of transformative grace that occur when someone is faced with a desperate, life-threatening situation. Like John Newton, who was a slave trader, and when his ship was in a terrible storm at sea and nearly capsized, he had a transformative experience. Later, he gave up the slave trade and became an Anglican minister and an abolitionist lobbyist against the slave trade. He wrote the song Amazing Grace as a story of his experience. However, there are other mechanisms of transformative grace, some much more subtle. And I'd like to tell you a story about a couple of those tonight. Years ago, as a 30-year-old young mother and graduate of a 2-year industrial engineering program, I was asked to take over management of the engineering department at St. Anne's Hospital in Columbus, Ohio. Now, industrial engineers are the efficiency experts and problem solvers, not trained experts in any mechanical or facility work. However, being young and maybe foolish, I said yes to that opportunity, and I vowed to do my best for the organization and the patients it served. In my experience, hospital personnel were very motivated by the altruistic purpose of their work. To better educate myself about maintenance tasks, I would make my rounds, just like the doctors do, at the end of the day, wherever work had been going on during that day. This one summer day, when I entered mechanical room number 9, I felt a cold chill. Something was wrong. Everything looked fine. No tools were laying around, no dirty rags in the corners of the room, no bolts or screws or anything else on the floor. Everything looked fine, but something was wrong. I went to the nurse's station and called Fred, the supervisor at home. I told him something's wrong. He and Tommy, the mechanic, came back in. And when they walked through the door of the room, Tommy immediately said, "Oh my gosh, I forgot to put the breaker back in." Now, these breakers are like industrial-sized breakers like this. And it takes quite an effort to push them in and pull them out of the panel. And you have both a normal electric panel and an emergency electric panel side by side in these rooms. He said that in order to work on the pump that day, he had to pull the breaker, or if the emergency generator system would have kicked in. Everything would be fine working on the normal system, unless there were a big storm, and the emergency generator would therefore be the only power. Without that breaker in, there would be no emergency generator service to the newborn nurseries or the ICU nurseries. So he restored the breaker in the panel, and then we left. That night, there was a thunderstorm, and the hospital was without power. The emergency generator kicked in. No storm had been predicted that night. In the morning, when I came into work, the buzz in the maintenance shop quieted when I walked in. A bit later, Fred came into my office and asked, "How did you know?" I said, "I didn't know. I just felt there was something wrong." I'm sure there was buzz going around the maintenance shops all day, and a transformation that occurred in myself, an avowed agnostic, as well as in the maintenance staff, who wondered what the heck had happened. This is the kind of transformation that leads one to wonder about the things we know and what we don't know, about how such a protective energy can work for us and in us for the good of others and for ourselves, about how we can be instruments of that protective grace for one another. It works on each person who witnessed the situation, subtly, kind of like ripples in the pond from a dropped stone that carry the message of grace outward. Being a practicing medium in Lilydale has allowed me to be part of many transformative experiences for myself, my clients, and their families. One story especially came to mind that I want to tell you about. This happened in one of my first years that I was doing mediumship, more than 20 years ago. So when I learned the outcome, I was particularly moved and awed. Two sisters came to me for a reading together. When I opened with my prayer and I started to receive from Spirit, I gave a very evidential description of the person that I was receiving from. And they said it sounded just like their favorite aunt, but they were sure it was not her. So I asked for more, and I even brought through a name that was very, very close to that aunt's name. But they said no, it could not be her, as she was on the earth plane. I remember feeling rather stumped at that point, and I told them, well, I feel I just have to deliver the message from whoever this woman is, and then we'll go on. So they agreed, and I delivered the message, which really was one of love and reassurance to them and their families, letting them know that everything was fine and that she was fine. Once I delivered that message, I felt an emotional release, and then I went on with the rest of the reading. Finished up, gave them their recording, and they left. Fast forward 2 years. The same sisters came back to me for another reading. At the end of it, they said, now we have to tell you what happened about the session that they had had with me before. After that previous session, they were discussing how much it seemed like that was their aunt who came through. They knew she had been somewhat ill, but nothing serious. However, they decided to check it out anyway. They went to the post office where we had a payphone back then, and they called home. That was when they learned that their favorite aunt had passed to spirit the very hour they were receiving their reading from me.
Wow.
They were able to pass along the message to the family, who were extremely relieved and happy to receive it. Perhaps it even brought others to an awakening about the life beyond life. How truly awesome it was to be reaffirmed that the work we do can be comforting, helpful, and transformative to those who seek us out. We each have the power to be the transformative grace to anyone we encounter at any time. We have only to set our intention for good and be willing to be available to let the power of God work through us. These are just two stories, just examples of how grace can lead to personal transformation and move us toward a greater understanding of how the divine works in our lives. The experiences of transformative grace are unique for everyone. Be aware of what resonates for you. Notice the subtle signs and outcomes for yourself and others. And sometimes those that surprise and stun you. I invite you to think about the times you have been witness of the transformative grace in your life. Allow yourself to know that this grace is a gift of unmerited favor. Through the power of the Holy Spirit, you are worthy and you can't mess it up. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Connie.